Hi everybody, it's Mary Hurdle from Made by Marney. This month's tip is about adding embroidery to a paper-pieced block, and usually those embroidery lines are on the pattern, which is on the back of the block. So you have to do reverse embroidery. That's what I'm going to teach you today. Each issue of American Quilter magazine in 2025 will be highlighting one of my free paper-pieced patterns, and they will be seasonal. We started out with Be My Honey block. You're also going to find a scan where you can link up to the video that I am highlighting that month about different tips and tricks that you can use for paper piecing. You're also going to see madebymarney.com, my website address, where you can find more of my patterns, a link to my Etsy shop, and there will also be available this free Be My Honey rug mat pattern, which you can use for any of the blocks because they all fit in, and you just can put a different saying on, or you could just put a novelty fabric here if you don't want to do the stitching. So the next block in the series is the Cool Cat. This will be in the July-August issue of American Quilter magazine. And the Cool Cat has this saying to go with it, a perfect day. And you can stitch that to make your rug mat or your mug rug if that's what you want to do with the block, or you can use it for anything you want. This block is going to finish at 6.5 by 6.5 inch unfinished square. And so if I'm doing the stitching, today's tip will be how to do reverse embroidery. I'm using a running stitch, but I'm doing it in reverse. Now it's really a very simple thing to do, but sometimes the simple things are what we get caught up on. I'm starting out with my letters in reverse because everything is going to be stitched backwards and then used. I can do this reverse with any saying I want. I just basically hold it up to the window and trace the letters backwards. I'm also leaving some little stitch marks between, so my letters will have kind of like a childish look to them. You could skip the gaps and make them all solid if that's what you prefer. So I'm starting out with my piece of fabric pinned to the back with the wrong side of the fabric touching the wrong side of the pattern, and I've lined it up by holding it up to a window, and I'm just using some quilting pins to hold that pattern, that fabric, loosely in place. Now I'm going to use DMC embroidery floss, and I'll use all 6 strands of it at one time. So I cut off a chunk about as long as, about as long as my arm, which is about like that. And then I'm going to put all 6 of those strands into what's called a crewel embroidery needle, which means it has a nice big hole and yet a nice pointy end to stab through the fabric. I just pinch that through, and I just want the 6 strands with a knot at the end, so I'm not doubling it up. Okay, sometimes I do 2 knots on top of each other, so it definitely will not poke through. You can see I already have the A done. You can see where the knots are. All the yucky stuff is going to show up on this side of the pattern, so all the nice stuff shows up on the fabric behind it. And I can start out in any letter, and I'll just work from left to right like I would read, and I'll just go in and then out again at the end of that little line. So I'm actually doing the opposite or the reverse of what the pattern shows. So the nice stitch shows on the back, and the knots and the spaces show on this side. Stab in, stab out. Each stitch is a little more than a quarter inch to a half inch. And if it's getting too much of a gap, then just stab straight in, adjust it, because the fabric can move around a little bit with these pins. It's not a real close up tight bond. And I usually do check each time, like going in and out, so I don't get too far away from that first stitch and I don't get my gaps too big. So you want your gaps to be tiny and your stitches to be bigger than the gaps. Now from here, if I'm going to jump over to there without, and I have a gap, I would make a knot there. And then I'll feel free to jump over to the next letter and start the cross on the T. Oops. And I think you get the idea. And you just continue to stitch. Basically, you're stitching backwards or in reverse, reverse embroidery. So I hope that helps. Look for the cool cat block in the next issue, July, August, of American Quilter magazine. Visit me on madebymarney.com, where you can link right to my Etsy shop to get hundreds of other adorable paper piecing patterns. Thank you.